Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Stephen McCain podcast, where I bring you people making world-class decisions in the field of human optimization and performance. This week's guest is Dave Pascoe. He is right up at the top on the Rejuvenation Olympics leaderboard. What that means is he is slowing down his rate of aging. And in this podcast, we discuss all the ways in which he's doing that. And you'd be surprised, a lot of these are just fundamentally simple habits that he continues to do, which in this world where we're all looking for a magic bullet, it is a nice reminder that sleep and diet and exercise and gratitude really can have an impact on our rate of aging. And this guy's 62 years old. I've met him in person. He's in great shape. He looks phenomenal. So let's dig in and let's really learn from this guy. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Let's do this. Dave Pascoe, welcome to the Stephen McCain podcast.
Hey, Stephen, thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. We met at the Club Exosome recently in Vegas, and I knew about you. I was fascinated by your approach, and we're very similar in terms of a lot of us that are going after this health thing. I don't know how you really want to define it, and maybe we'll do that on this podcast, but it was really cool meeting you. And just so everyone knows, like you were in really great shape, and we're going to talk about your exercise routine. But did you notice anything from the exosomes?
Yeah, actually, I was surprised because I've been having trouble sleeping on this shoulder. I mean, this is the shoulder that I got the injection in because I was having rotator cuff issues. But that night, I was able to sleep on my side just fine. I never expected anything that quick.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
that was impressive.
Yeah, and just so that everyone knows, Club Exosome is a joint venture between me and Dr. Sandra Kaufman, and we just trying to democratize access to some of these really cool modalities, and we have a lot of fun with it. It's pretty casual. We do it quarterly in Vegas, and
Great group of people.
yeah, it was really, the conversations are phenomenal, and I look at it as a networking event, and here we are. I met you there. You came out to it, and you're on the podcast, and just a bunch of really cool, like-minded people. And I've been using exosomes for about a year and a half pretty consistently. I do them quarterly. And I tell you, I had a shoulder issue from COVID using that X3 bar. I wasn't fully warmed up. And I'm like, it's just something, it's not 100, it's not right. And after about 3 treatments of a pretty low dose, it fixed it. Forgot which side it was. And so
Nice.
it's those things are amazing. Yeah.
Well, I ended up screwing up my shoulder again shortly afterwards because I was feeling so great that when I came home, I have a pair of like Olympic rings in my backyard, and Tony Horton's a big, I'm a big fan of his. Still do his P90X workouts, and I watched something that he did on Instagram where he was doing this really cool flip thing. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to give that a try. Yeah, well, I should have warmed up a little bit first. I also should have given this a few more weeks to heal up. But yeah, I did some of the flips with it. I felt like, oh, this pull. So now I'm a little sore here, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I always tell people, I have a lot of friends that are into fitness, and they're like, oh, rings, you got to show me stuff on rings. And I said, listen, tread lightly. That is the easiest way to jack your shoulders, like 100%. Trust me, those things are dangerous. They are amazing.
Where were you when I needed you?
But yeah.
You could have talked me out of doing that.
Yeah, maybe I should do like a little ring routine, small course or something, how to safely navigate rings.
I would definitely watch that.
Okay, well, we'll put it on the list. But look, you're an interesting guy. Right now, you are a head of Brian Johnson, who's gotten a lot of press in the Rejuvenation Olympics, which is essentially a leaderboard for people that are doing this methylation biological age tests, and whoever is aging at the slowest rate is highest on the leaderboard. And you're number 6, which is probably, you must be getting a lot of attention for this, I imagine.
Surprisingly so. Yeah, I didn't expect the amount of attention that I would get from that, because it's just me living my life. I didn't think that was a big deal until people were like, oh, but you're beating a billionaire who's spending $2 million a year. That's something.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it's noteworthy to say the least. I mean, you look at everything you're doing on your website, and it's an impressive array of it's a discipline. But there must be some genesis to all this. What happened? Did you have a moment? Do you have a dark moment? Did you have something that really spurred this, or are you just always this way?
Wow. Yeah, I've kind of always been this way, but it's been an iteration over time where I just keep adding and adding and adding. I was always a weird kid. Um, I used to like really look into how adults around me behaved, like what made them successful, right? In
Yeah.
anything, whether it's finances, relationships, health and wellness. Um, what what is it? Why do some people do really great at some things and other people just seem to suck at it? And so I could get off on a whole tangent about my parents and
Please.
growing up with my father, but that I don't I don't know if I really want to go there. I've done that on a few other podcasts, so if people hear multiple podcasts, they'll be sick of hearing that. But um, yeah, so as far as health and wellness went, well, I mean, I could say like I could see some people were very wealthy, while other people, struggled a little bit more. My family wasn't, real well off, but I didn't know any better because that's the way my neighborhood was. That's the way all my friends were. But I would see couples, I would see couples like that got along like best friends, and others that fought like cats and dogs. And I wanted to know what was it about these relationships that made them work the way they were, or not work the way they were. So the same with health and fitness. I noticed that people that did certain habits always had great success, and people who didn't do those habits or had other worse bad habits always seemed to get the same results too. So I noticed that people would get really, really old looking if they drank a lot and smoked a lot. And that was sort of an experiment that I did going through high school, where I, watched friends who I knew were really hard partiers, because
Yeah.
I had the strongest suspicion that they weren't going to look so good later on in life. And sad to say, that's so true. Some of the
Yeah.
friends that I graduated with, I look at them and I go, oh my gosh, these people are so old. I
Yeah.
can't identify with them anymore. It's like
Yeah.
they're of a whole different generation than me.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've had a high level of curiosity and perspective on
But
just
I did have a
looking at the.
scare.
You did have a
I,
what?
I did have a scare. I mean, everybody seems to have some sort of health
Yeah.
scare.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
What was the
Yeah.
scare?
Mine was minimal. I mean, compared to a lot of folks, because I always tried to eat right, based on whatever the understanding of what eating right was of the day. I can't say I always did that. I mean, growing up as a kid, I ate a lot of sugar and crap, but um, all right, I've lost my train of thought. I hate when that
You
happens.
you were going to talk about your scare. Your scare.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so it was about the time I was turning 50. I was training for my first marathon. I was doing P90X. I was taking care of both of my parents who were down pretty hard with cancer at the same time. And I just thought I was Joe Cool. I thought I had it all together. It was Mr. Fitness. I was in great shape. I mean, here I was at 50, much better, healthier, stronger, faster than I ever was in my 30s, and looking better. All because of changing in my lifestyle, diet, exercise. But then I heard or read, I can't remember which, about a test for telomeres. Telomeres being those, like, imagine them as the little end caps on the end of your shoelaces that keep your shoe from unraveling. They're
Yeah.
the markers on DNA. I mean, I know you know this. I'm just saying this for whoever might be listening. But
Yeah.
um, they're kind of like a separator between SNPs of DNA, separate genes. And I'm probably butchering that explanation. But anyway, the idea is that as time goes by and cells replicate, these telomeres tend to get shorter. And the shorter they get, basically the older, biologically you are. And so I thought, yeah, I'll go get this test. Let's see how I'm doing. I'm sure it's going to come back and say I've got the telomeres of a 20-year-old, right? Well, no, it was completely the opposite. It told me I had the telomeres of a 68-year-old at age 50.
Uh-oh.
And I thought,
Oh, yeah.
whoa, yeah, that's not good. I'm obviously missing something really huge here. What is it?
Yeah.
thankfully the company that offered it, well, they're not around anymore, but they offered a consultation along with the test. And so I got on the phone with their staff physician, and the very first thing he started asking me was things about my lifestyle. Right. Really, at the time, it wasn't very well known that lifestyle could trump genetics, or that lifestyle
Mhm.
really even mattered. Well, I guess if it was known, it wasn't known by me. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So I just thought these were really strange questions that he was asking me. But through the course of the conversation, yeah, I mean, I'm explaining that, yeah, I'm the sole caretaker for both of my parents who have cancer, doing the P90X, which I thought was excellent, doing marathon training. I've got an incredibly stressful job. And the guy stops me right there and says, whoa, okay. He says, we have seen this in endurance athletes having much shorter telomeres because of the stress that they put themselves under. We've also seen it in caretakers. We've seen it in people who, have incredibly stressful jobs for a living. And you've got the trifecta. you're basically
Yeah.
killing yourself with stress.
Yeah.
And that was a huge eye opener for me. And so they
Yeah.
suggested things like, yoga, meditation. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, I used to do yoga and meditation. How did I ever forget about those? I guess just through the course of life and everything that was happening, those things got pushed, into the background. Totally
Yeah.
forgot about them. So yeah,
Yeah.
I had to pull those
Yeah.
back out of my back pocket and start again.
Yeah. The fear of God can be a powerful motivation.
Yeah.
I have found that most people who are really dialed in this industry or have really committed to it, they had a moment, some moment that really was a light for them, that basically where they were confronted with their mortality, their life. And so thank you for sharing that story. And what's interesting about yours is you have cancer in your family gene lineage, and
Yeah.
shortening of telomeres is a cancer risk, right? Because
Yeah.
now these DNA are left to mutate because there's no end of the cap, like the shoelace cap at the end of them. And so, what have you done for your telomeres? I'm sure you've had them tested, and I'm sure you've activated some telomerase. You've probably done some epitalon, some TA65. You've lowered your stress levels. You've probably done quite a
All
few
of the
things, I
above.
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
TAM
yeah,
818. Yeah. I mean, at the time I was searching everywhere. There really wasn't anything available. It took quite a while for things to become available that could increase telomeres with like telomerase. I don't
yeah,
think that was even known back in, what was that, 2012. I think it was a
yeah.
few years later that it became widely known, and through cancer research, that they saw that cancer cells produce their own telomerase. And so it's like, wow, cool. So as soon as products became available, I started taking those.
Yeah. Have you considered, I know it's really expensive, but Liz Parrish's telomerase gene therapy at all?
No, no, I'm not even familiar with it. Do tell.
Yeah. So I always, my first podcast guest, Paul Tozer, I always say this almost because he's jumped on the bandwagon to a lot of these things, but it's basically a gene therapy where it just makes your body produce telomerase, which will increase your telomeres. And he's had it done. It's very expensive. That's the only problem
I would
for
imagine.
now.
Yeah.
For now, it's very expensive, and I'm sure it will come down in price over time, but that's maybe the holy grail of telomerase, telomere treatment. It's interesting that that stuff is out there, but look, it's not about doing the most expensive treatment. I mean, there's lots of behavioral modifications you can do, like limiting your stress. I mean, the goal isn't to live a stressful life and then find some sort of magic bullet that's going to just fix it, right? I mean, the goal is to try to do things in the most holistic, organic, simple way. And then if you're really still in a state of emergence, add some of these high level hacks or whatever you want to call them to move the needle on this issue. But
Yeah.
it's very interesting that that you had that experience, and it's on par with a lot of my guests and stuff. I'm always curious, like what is it? What happened to this person? Yeah.
And I've
So
always been amazed that people have to wait to become a cancer patient to start doing the interventions that you would do as a cancer patient. I'm like, why wouldn't we start eating healthy beforehand? Why do we just clean up
Exactly.
our diet, in result of a diagnosis? Why not be
Exactly.
preventative?
Yeah, I
Uh,
completely agree. I have my own longevity framework, um, optimal framework. I still kind of have to figure out what the name is for it. But the very first thing, which I consider the longevity part of it, is managing your bottlenecks. And so that it refers to something in your genetic lineage. You should know this. What did your ancestors die from? What is your blood markers? What is your DNA testing? It's all pointing that you have a propensity for a specific disease, usually one of the four big killers, right? For me, it's heart disease. So I my first step in my entire protocol is disease mitigation. I have to have a plan. There is no all longevity means is the absence of disease to me. Right?
right.
I mean, yeah, not dying in a car crash or falling and breaking your hip, but it
Sure.
really, at the end of the day, the whole Blue Zones documentary, all that stuff, these are just people that don't get disease, And so for you, I imagine you potentially have this cancer in your family. Are you doing any sort of advanced screening for that? Because it seems like cancer is all about early detection and screening.
Yeah. Um, got all kinds of things in my family. Gosh, my dad had COPD. He was borderline diabetic, which, I mean, when they say borderline, if you're borderline, you're basically diabetic. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think there really is any borderline. You're there. You just need to start doing something about it.
The only
Um,
reason why they say borderline is because you need to cross a threshold for the insurance company to allow you to
bingo.
actually use your insurance to pay for it. So they're like, no, you don't have it yet. You don't have it
Yeah.
yet. Now you have diabetes. Now
Yeah.
you can get some
Reach that
medication.
teeter-totter tip, and now you're really screwed. Okay. Yeah.
Absurd. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So,
What?
I mean, I've had my genetics run several different times, but then I finally did my entire genome. And I guess I wasn't surprised to see that I have 3 genetic markers for the same macular degeneration that my dad suffered from,
Oh,
both wet
wow.
and dry. So part of my supplementation is, addressing eye health. But yeah, there was heart issues. I know my father's mother had angina. Um, there were so many health issues in my family. So I'm pretty much trying to combat all of them.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Good for
yeah, I
you.
regularly go see like a cardiologist. In fact, what is it? Next week, I think I've got an appointment with America's Healthy Heart Doc, Dr. Joel Kahn. He's got his own podcast too. Great guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Is he going to have you on?
I don't know. I don't think
Yeah.
so. We've never talked about it, but he usually does
Well,
solosodes, so that usually doesn't usually have guests.
well, listen, I mean, there's so many, I would love to talk about your eye protocol. You know what? Let's do it. What are you doing for your eye protocol? Because that's the only thing I've noticed. I'm 50 now. It's the only real thing I've noticed in terms of aging. And so far distance, no problem, like a hawk. But
Oh,
up
wow.
close reading, I'm getting a little bit blurry, and I have the lowest prescription readers. I hate it.
Hmm.
I
So we
hate
have the
them.
opposite problem then, because I
Interesting.
can't see very good from far, but close up I'm fine. Which was
Interesting.
great because, as a network security architect and engineer, I was always had my face in a laptop, so I needed to be able to see close up well, and
Hmm.
I never had an issue with that. But I
What?
usually need a wingman like you when I'm out to be able to tell if the girls look good from far away, and then I can tell you whether they look good from close up or not. So
Yeah. That's great. Well, that's great at almost 62 years of age. Your hormone profile sounds like it's good if you're talking about the
yeah,
female and wanting to figure out, if they look good. But what are you
amazingly
doing
no
for your?
issues there.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I mean, there's an epidemic going on with that. Men's testosterone is
Yeah,
Jesus. I mean, I've basically come to this conclusion that every man on the face of the earth is practically going to have to be on hormone replacement at some point in their life.
it
I,
almost all of my friends, seems like everybody I know is on testosterone replacement therapy. Yeah,
Yeah, and a lot of people shy away from, "Oh, I don't want to be on steroids." And it's like, look, it's not about redlining your body. It's not about like overdriving this and being some like, s- you know, it just put your
Yeah.
levels in an optimal range, top 25% quartile. And the problem is the reference ranges are just dropping. So it used to be that 900 was the average, and then it just kept coming down. Now I don't even know what it is, but it's something that it really is
Like
well
300, I
below.
think is normal now.
Oh my God, I can't even
Straight.
imagine. I can't tell you how many guys call me, and they're around that 35 plus, somewhere between 35 and low 40s, and they know something's happening. They're like, something is not right. I can feel
And
it.
you're talking
And
total, right? Not free. You're talking total testosterone.
yeah, I'm talking total. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, total. Yeah. I usually speak in total, but I know it's a lot of it, most of it's bound up, and your free testosterone is the only active usable portion of it. But in general, typically, if you have 300 compared to 900, you're probably going to have a commensurately less testosterone. You're going to notice it. It's a huge thing. And then there's a lot of these clinics that, they're not really up to speed on fully how to do hormone optimization. And I always tell people that's one of those things you need to learn from a doctor first. Like go get a really good doctor that is really good at hormones. Learn the ropes for a few years, and then you can do it by yourself. But you really need to work with a professional. You've got to look under the hood. You've got to know these values, and you need to know what moves the needle and what to look for in a blood lab, so that if you want to manage it yourself. I mean, I've been managing my hormone stuff. I take pregnenolone and DHEA, and I take some HCG, and but I've been managing that for a while. But I learned from a really great doctor, and I spent years paying a lot of money to learn that system. So if you need it, all the men listening out there, testosterone it's vital. It's not just about building muscle. There's a whole host of necessities for testosterone. And for you being 60, almost 62, and clearly the way you look, I saw you, you're in good shape. You've somehow bulletproofed yourself. And I'm sure a lot of that is your diet and your personal care products. And you're probably very protective, I imagine, of yourself.
Oh, and of my sleep too. I mean, you gave me a
Yeah.
great offer to go out that night, and I'm like, oh, I really need my sleep. I was still
Yeah.
on Detroit time, so I was like 3 hours, later. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I hooked up from my Club Exosome team. I have a friend of mine. He's the head of entertainment for MGM. And so he has a lot of connections. And we did this performance dinner thing where it's all like music and all this stuff. Really cool. It was called Mayfair at Bellagio. And then we walked over to Pinky Ring, which is Bruno Mars. It's supposed to be, I thought it was a jazz bar, but it's kind of a club with a really, really good band. But it's got it's a cool vibe. And he came and sat right behind us. This guy, he hooked us up so we could, be right with Bruno Mars. And he gets on stage and he's belting it out. And it was fun. But I mean, I couldn't last past one. As soon as 10:30 comes around, I'm bobbing and weaving. I'm like, I can barely keep my eyes open because I've been so regular with my sleep for so long. Sometimes I love it, but at the same time, there's sometimes I'm like, God, can't you just stay awake till 1? You're at this thing, and all I could think of is I'm screwing my circadian rhythm up right now. I'm barely can keep an eye open. But the people I invited to this were really having a good time. I wanted to be there for them. And some of them were like huge fans of Bruno. And but when you texted me and you said it's a little past my bedtime, I can't do it. I had so much respect for you. I really did. I thought, this is why this guy's on the leaderboard. Really?
and here I was
Seriously.
thinking you were going to say, oh my gosh, this guy is old.
No,
That's what was going through
quite
my
the
mind.
contrary.
I'm going to be
Yeah, quite.
graded on my age,
Yeah.
But starting at 9:30, that was 12:30 for me. Like I said, I was still on Detroit time, and that was just going to be way too late to get started. So
Oh yeah, that's even adding it more insult to injury. Yeah, but I really respected it, and I was an Olympic athlete. I had to live that way for a long time, where I had to put my force fields up around everybody. Even as a kid, when I first started gymnastics, I had friends that after school would be playing, and they're like, can't you just not go to gymnastics today? Can't you just skip it?" And I said, "No, I can't do it. I can't.
Yeah.
This is what I
the
do."
little devil on the shoulder, always.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I really respected it. But look, I want to circle back around to this eye thing. What are you doing for your
Yeah.
eyes? Because maybe you're doing something I haven't heard of.
I'm glad you went back there because I was gonna I was gonna try to circle back to that too. So, yeah, a lot of like astaxanthin,
Yep.
zeaxanthin,
Yep.
lutein,
Yep.
eating lots of food that's, red and orange and yellow, getting a lot of the carotenoids and stuff in the diet.
Yeah.
Just really
Yeah.
focusing on that. And of course, not
Yeah.
smoking. Like I said, my dad was
Yeah.
a really big smoker, big drinker. That didn't help his eyesight any. And then, of course, he
Yeah.
also had got shingles, which took out one of his eyes completely from that.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah.
Interesting.
So I
Wow.
did bite the bullet. I got the shingles vaccine. And I know a lot of people are very adverse to vaccinations, but honestly, I've been vaccinated for everything under the sun because I traveled to Africa in 2019. So I needed a bunch of vaccinations for travel for that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it hasn't
I
seemed to impact my longevity at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, when you're doing all these other things, it's not that vaccination maybe for a very unhealthy person with massive metabolic disorders and things like that. I mean, I'm sure there's a gasoline and fire sort of
Exactly.
scenario for a lot of these comorbidities. But the eye stuff, big fan of astaxanthin. I don't think I've missed a dose of astaxanthin in the last 14 years, maybe. Love it.
It's great for
Lutein,
DNA
zeaxanthin,
repair in general. So it's a
yeah,
terrific supplement.
mitochondria, inflammation. I mean, it's one of those ones that I know it's Sandra Kaufman's favorite, and I agree with.
Oh,
I'm like,
really?
yeah,
I didn't know
and
that.
it's a natural sunscreen too.
Mhm.
So for someone that's really fair like me, it offers a natural sunscreen, and I've seen this work. I've been in places where I normally would have been fried. Someone with the same sort of skin tone as me, and it really works. But I have that vitamin A SNP that doesn't. Um, I don't convert carotenoids into vitamin A very efficiently. So I think what I'm going to do now is I've noticed that this really is a light issue for me. If I'm at a restaurant and it's really dark, if I just shine my torch light from my phone on the menu, I can read it. I don't need glasses. So I'm thinking I might have been ventured into a vitamin A deficiency because of this inability to convert carotenoids into vitamin A. And also, I've supplemented vitamin D religiously for a long time, D with K2. But you really need to have A in there with D. Like I've been doing a lot of research on this, and I've noticed a few little skin things that show up for what would be people that have low vitamin A. So I'm going to have that properly tested, and I'm going to get that level dialed in and see what it does. But I've tried the NAC eye drops, which are really good. I've tried the
Same here.
yeah, have you tried the peptide ones? The Visomitten?
No. Oh, wait.
Those?
Wait. Oh, bioregulator.
Yeah,
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 Visolutin or whatever. It looks like
yeah.
it's Russian, but yeah, I have tried
It
that. Yeah.
it is Russian. I've actually bought it in Moscow before from
Huh.
the equivalent of a CVS in 2019, and I put it in my eyes. And by the end of the week, I thought they upgraded my iPhone. I was like, "What are they? What are they?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, those eye drops." Problem is, you can get them here. They don't seem to work as well. The lady in the pharmacy said, "Keep it cold." So I think by the time they ship all the way over here, they're really not as effective. And because I was trying them here for a while, I'm like, yeah, it helps, but it doesn't have the same punch they did when I was in Moscow. So somebody needs to make that product here. The other thing I've done is taken because I'm in the exosome business is whatever like anything that's left over in the vial at all. And usually we do a good job of clearing it, absolutely. But I will, for my own, I'll take the exosomes and I'll just use them as eye drops. And I have noticed that that has had an effect.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
because
Yeah.
yeah, they're so small. They're less than 150 nanometers, I believe. They absorb through the skin so they can get into the eye. And I would like to do a more regular protocol of those where I'm hitting it more consistently. The problem is that as soon as you thaw out an exosome, you have to use it. So how do you thaw out only a few drops worth and then use those? So I'll figure it out, but I'm really starting to take a stronger. I even had bought that program years ago, the eye gym, where you do all these exercises for your eyes, and because
Mm.
some people will say, "Oh, you're just not able to. The muscles are atrophying in the eye, so you can't focus as well." So I have that. I think I'm going to at some point here take like a strong approach to it because it's the only thing I noticed, and I do everything else pretty well. But the eye thing, I kind of feel like I've started to accept it. And we've had this conversation now, and now I'm not going to accept it.
Fight it the whole way, kicking and
Fight it the
screaming.
whole way. Don't let the old man in. I talked to this guy who,
Exactly.
this famous sculptor, and he's in his mid 70s. And I was like, man, you're really active for your age. And everything. I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, I don't let the old man in. And I thought,
Apparently,
wow.
there's a country song by that name that somebody was just telling me about the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we should
And
make
people
that
that are
the
watching are
background.
going, "It's so and so, you idiots!" But we don't know who that is. So,
Yeah,
sorry.
exactly. Well, I'll dig it up. I'll put a link to it. So,
Show
for
notes.
yeah, I'll put the podcast or the Spotify link to it. But look, let's dig in a little bit to your protocol, because something's working, and I'm interested. Obviously, we don't have time to really go through all of what you're doing, but I would like to hit your major sections and maybe what you think were the biggest movers for you. Because I guess
Yeah.
to frame this, have you noticed, like, I did my methylation test, and then I made some tweaks, and then I did it again and it improved. Have you pinned down certain things in your protocol that you feel are obligatory to your protocol and that they had the biggest swing effect?
Yeah, well, I'm sure you've heard it said a million times that you can't supplement your way out of a bad diet, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for the longest time, I guess I was trying to do that. I noticed that, all right, so to figure out how I'm doing with any of my protocol, I always do like a monthly blood test and look at what my blood markers are. And then doing True Diagnostic, when I learned of them, that was, and the telomere testing. Those were indicators of other measures that I wanted to look at to make sure that I was on the right track with my protocol. Because I wanted to make sure that by taking all these supplements, I'm not injuring myself in some way.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's some weird interaction between these. Or you always hear people say, "Oh, you can't take that many supplements. You're going to ruin your liver or your kidneys or whatever." And
Yeah.
to be able to verify whether that's true or not, I have to do all these testing. And thankfully,
Exactly.
no, many of the things that I take are actually good for my liver and my kidneys. So
Yeah.
it's not a concern, and my markers are pretty good. So, but getting back to your question, what's the biggest mover? I when I found True Diagnostic and I took my first test. I can't remember. I think my score was like 0.72, maybe.
Okay.
And then my next test, I think I was up to 0.8. And then my third test, I was at 0.66. And that was coincidentally my qualifying score for the Rejuvenation Olympics. The only thing that really changed between the 0.8 and the 0.66 was my diet.
Was what?
My diet.
Oh, okay.
The foods that I was eating. I was eating pretty clean, but this was right about the time that both of my parents had finally passed, and I was doing a whole house renovation, and I wasn't always able to food prep and eat clean, so I was doing some cheating. I would buy 2 large pizzas and I would package those up, and I would eat like a couple of slices for lunch and a couple of slices for dinner. In between working on the house. So the diet kind of slacked off a little bit. But once that was through and I began, I got back to eating nothing but, clean, healthy stuff. That's when I got the 0.66.
Wow.
For my pace of aging.
Yeah. What's interesting is I did that test not that long ago, and I'm in the 0.6 something. I forget what it is. I should just put my name in there. I don't know why I haven't done that. I think because
you should.
I really should. I kind of almost am afraid a little bit to ping that competitive nature in me, because I was an Olympian, and I'm a little bit, look, I almost lost 2 separate girlfriends to family games of Monopoly over the holidays. Like, that's how competitive I can get. I refuse to lose. And I'm just a little bit like, I'm
slightly concerned to go there, because then I'll be like, okay, I'm going to go about this like a professional athlete. I'm going to be like a race car driver with all the sponsors. I'm going to be reaching this. I use your product to get, to be the number one guy. And I'm going to, my brain will go in that direction. But regardless of that, the food cannot be underappreciated. I can't, a lot of clients and people that I work with, I ask them, how often are you eating out? I just worked with an actor when he's losing roles because he took off his shirt and he didn't have the physique that somebody else did. And he's like, I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of losing to these guys that have a better physique. And I said, well, how many times are you eating out? He said, almost every meal. I said, and he had some gut issues. He wasn't digesting his food very well. It is really hard to have a six-pack if you have digestion issues. Like your digestion is how you expel things and how you absorb things. And you've got to have at least one good bowel movement a day. But I got him and just said, you need to start cooking. Just simplify. Get yourself a steamer. If you eat meat, get some responsible meat, get some organic vegetables in a nice array, use some healthy fats, use your starch around your workouts, because that's when you'll absorb a lot of that glucose. And it worked. He was like, man, I feel so much better. I realized just eating from home and controlling my meals has such a difference. But when I look at your website, you're doing it to not only that, but you're doing it at the next level. I mean, you're growing some of your own food. Tell me about that.
Yes. Before I go there, you actually touched on several different things I wanted to make comments on. So when you look at somebody like Julie Gibson Clark, who is on the Rejuvenation Olympics, and I think she's in there's two different leaderboards. There's an absolute and then there's a regular leaderboard. On the regular leaderboard, she's right behind Brian, but her pace of aging is even better. Hers is better than mine and his. And she doesn't do a whole bunch of supplements. She doesn't do a lot of crazy stuff. She nails all the basics. I mean, she's out rucking, so she's out very physically active all the time. She does do Novos Core as a supplementation. But it's not like, that's great for autophagy and cellular cleanup, but we're not talking spending hundreds or thousands of dollars a month on supplements. She just nails all the good stuff, all the basics. She's got the sleep, diet, and exercise down. And to me, I think those are the biggest movers. Seriously.
Yeah.
The supplementation is just, like you said, is icing on the cake. It's hitting another layer. So when you look at things like True Diagnostic, they will admit that when they developed their test, it's specifically designed such that a disease state will not affect the reading that they get for your epigenetic age. Because originally it was designed to be able to age a cadaver, or to tell, like, if you had somebody that comes over from this country, from another country, does not have paperwork, you'll be able to tell basically how old they are. But it had to be independent of heart disease, of diabetes, high blood pressure, all these major systemic, issues. So when I look at pace of aging and epigenetic age, to me, the biggest movers of those are the sleep, exercise, and diet. But my supplements, I take to address more organ systems, like a higher level or higher layer of a complexity up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I didn't know that about that methylation test, that it is independent of disease states. And even more back to my framework, because like I said, the beginning is longevity. And that really is like shoring up any sort of disease mitigation, because like people get very cute with these tests and they say, oh, I reduced my biological age by 10 years. And I say, did you reduce the plaque in your arteries by 10 years? So you can't put the cart before the horse. You need to have some strategy to manage that disease state it's in you. It's in you, part of your lineage, right? And then you move into what I call the health span. That's your sleep, that's your nutrition, that's your exercise, that's your stress and management, your relationships, overcoming past traumas, things like that. And that to me is those behavioral changes that really, how well can I live these years that I have on this planet? And I couldn't agree with you more. And you've got to have some discipline or good habits. I don't think habits free you from discipline, because discipline kind of implies I really don't want to do this, but I
Right.
should.
Yeah.
Whereas habits are, I don't even have to have any cognitive expense whatsoever. I just do this without even thinking about it, like brushing your teeth, right?
Yeah.
None of us go like, "Ugh, do I really have to brush my teeth again today?" No, you just accept it, you do it. And I think if you can put those four movers, the nutrition, the sleep, the diet, and the exercise, all in that bucket, and build these habits, now you can start stacking 500 habits right now
Exactly.
without any cognitive expense. That's how someone goes, Jesus, how do you manage all of this? It's like, I, it's habit. I
Don't
don't even
even
have to,
think about it. Right.
don't even have to think about it. But it's interesting that people get caught up in coming at this and wanting to do the bottom stuff. And the bottom of my framework is really the regenerative part. That is the cellular, the pathways. That is the hallmarks of aging. And that's where you can use all these medications and supplements and compounds and novel molecules and all these things to address all those pathways of aging. But a lot of people, they want to get fancy. They want to come down to that bottom level because that's the kind of rage right now. But yet they haven't done the pre-work. They don't have the habits. They haven't mitigated their disease. And so it's an interesting sort of state that the environment is in, because people are kind of grasping at straws a lot of times instead of just having a solid framework. And you have a damn solid framework. I do want to ask you, what are you growing or doing to control your food?
Yeah. That's an interesting question. I would love to grow more if I had the space and if
Yeah.
I had the know-how on actually how to prepare some things. Right now I'm growing sweet potatoes again in my yard. I grew those. I've been growing them now for a couple years, and I keep learning a little more and more each time, making my soil a little more sandy each time because it's helping the potatoes to grow larger. Originally, they were like tiny little things. I like string potatoes. I couldn't do a whole lot with them, but the more
Yeah.
sand I'm adding to the soil, the better and larger they're getting. So I've got lots of
Interesting.
those going. I'm growing turnips. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of all the things I planted. I planted onions, um, parsnips. I've got carrots, um, tomatoes, of course,
You've got,
green peppers, yellow peppers, red peppers, Swiss chard, like lots of
wow.
herbs. So I've got basil growing. I've got oregano, rosemary. Um, gosh, and I've had those lots of herbs growing in my basement under grow lamps throughout the winter, but I've got more outside now, which is nice. So
Yeah.
just about everything I can think of, I try to grow.
That is impressive. And how did you get into that? Is it a massive ordeal? Because I've done the herbs before. I've never planted food, and I'm highly curious, especially after seeing your site. And I know that, oh, this would be so nice. And I mean, if you think about it, you can put seeds in soil and you can grow food for free, basically. Yes, it takes time out of your day to nurture it and all that, but like you can forget that, you know? I mean, food's gotten pretty damn expensive.
Yeah, it has. I used to do it the hard way. My dad used to have a garden, and we used to rent a rototiller. And me being the young guy, he would always have me working the rototiller out there in the back. And if you've ever seen a rototiller, it's just this giant machine with blades, and it just tills up the soil and just tears everything up, getting everything ready for planting. It's a lot of work. I don't do
Yeah, it
that
sounds like
anymore.
it. Yeah.
When my dad started getting older, like in his late 70s, early 80s, I came up with this idea for him that he could continue his garden without having to bend over, without having to bend down. I bought a bunch of these things called earth boxes. It's well, coincidentally, back when I was 10, I came up with the design for earth boxes on my own. And
Really?
now here, all these decades later, somebody made a product out of it, and I'm just kicking myself that I ever let my
Yeah.
dad talk me out of it, because he told me it was a stupid idea back when I was 10. So,
Oh, really?
um, yeah, yeah. I'm like, I
Well,
had
don't
it all
sleep on the
sketched
next
out. It's
one.
like, right,
Don't sleep on
exactly.
the next idea. Yeah. That's great.
It was, yeah, it's basically this box, plastic box. It's got a reservoir in the bottom with a spout that you can pour water into. It fills the reservoir, so the plant's roots will grow down into the reservoir and drink as much as they want. So, and it also has a plastic cover that goes around the plants. So water's not evaporating. You only use a little bit of water. And so it's not like just seeping into the ground and going away. So it's very water conservative. That part I absolutely love. For him, I put them up on stands. So all he had to do is just walk right up to them and be able to pick and do his pruning and everything else. He never had to bend down. It also kept the animals out of them, because we have lots of bunnies and squirrels and possums and skunks and all kinds of things around here. So, so it was just a great idea all the way around, and he loved it. And I still continue that to this day. Of course, I've got better stands now, but all of my stuff is in earth boxes, and it's up about waist high. And I love it. It's all along the south side of my house, so it's in sun all day long. But the great thing about that is I also set up earth boxes. Yeah. Earthbox.com. I'm not sponsored by them. Hopefully they'll get lots of business from this. Because it's just a great thing for a suburban gardener if you don't want to have to dig up your property at all. And you can move them around anywhere you want because they're not that heavy. You can put them in sun, put them in shade, whatever works best in your yard. I also set up a watering system. So, and I put some of this on my website. I need to flesh out that page a little better now that I have time. I have a watering system that takes care of everything for me. So really, I planted them and I forget about them. I go out every so often just to pick some stuff to eat, but I don't have to weed because no weeds grow in them because I got the plastic covers on them. I don't have to water them because they water themselves every morning. It's just a timer comes on and runs for 1 minute because that's all it takes just to fill up that reservoir. And there's a hole in the side, so it can't overfill and drown the plants. Water will drain out the hole, which is halfway up the pot. So it's set it and forget it. I was able to go away for 30 days in Italy and not have to worry about my plants. I went away for the weekend in Vegas. I went away for the weekend in Dallas for the biohacking conference. Didn't have to worry about my plants dying while I was gone because it was all just automatic.
That's phenomenal. I mean, you're making it very enticing. I certainly am I'll include links in the show notes to all this stuff, earthbox.com, and you can find that at stephenmccain.com/Pascoe. How do you spell your last name, Dave? I should know this. Pascoe.
Pascoe. Yep.
You got it. Okay. But you're definitely making this very enticing because I would imagine in my mind, I've built it up to be something where I'm like, oh man, I don't want to be tending to a garden all day long. But it sounds like what you've developed makes it pretty simple.
The way to work smarter, not harder. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that, especially when it comes to gardening.
Yeah.
Because
my neighbors have a garden on the ground and, they're a little bummed because their tomatoes are getting eaten by the animals. What are you going to do?
Well, that's great. I'm going to look into all of that, and I might even reach out to you if I have some questions, because this is sort of the next iteration for me in terms of food control. I sometimes worry about all the stuff that's being sprayed on our food, even if it's organic. Yeah. I used to live in LA. There's this grocery store called Erewhon, and my God, you could get biodynamic food there. And for people who don't know, biodynamic farming is essentially where they've prioritized the soil health. So everything is about the soil health. Nothing is sprayed on anything. Obviously, glyphosate is in the rainwater, so you cannot get away from it, but there's nothing that they do to the food. It's the most organic really you can get. And what are you doing for your meat? Because you're not a vegetarian, you're not plant-based, right?
I'm probably more plant-based than not, but yeah, I do eat meat. I order from Butcher Box. If you're familiar with them, they have
I've used them.
grass-fed, grass-finished beef, free-range chicken, wild Alaskan salmon.
How often?
So I really like their stuff. Pardon?
How often are you eating meat?
So I'm eating meat almost every dinner. Almost.
Okay.
Not quite.
Yeah.
But usually very small. Like my meat is like condiment size. I mean, mostly it's vegetables, large salad. So the meat is just, it's a garnish almost.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
And I do eat eggs.
Okay.
I eat eggs on the weekends.
Okay.
Yeah.
And And fish is in that same category
I
as
eat
any
fish a
sort of,
lot, just
yeah,
because it's so easy to make. The
yeah,
salmon is just wonderful. I can put it on
yeah.
my my I'm trying to think what it's called now.
Your
It's an
plate?
infrared. It's an
I'm just
infrared
kidding.
cooker, and I can't even think of the name of it. Oh my gosh,
Oh,
yeah.
really? You have an
The
infrared
mind is the
cooker?
first thing that goes.
Is it a Ninja or something like that? The mind, yeah.
No. It's so funny. I mean, because I call it by its name all the time, but right now because I'm on a podcast, I'm totally blanking on it. But
It'll come back to you. Yeah, it'll
it's a
come
new
back to you.
wave. It's a new wave
New,
oven. Yeah.
new wave
So it's a
oven. Okay.
new wave oven, and so I can take a piece of salmon out of the freezer. I can put it in a little container of like warm water and thaw it out within a matter of minutes. Cut the plastic,
Yeah.
put it on the grill, cook it for 6 minutes each side. It's done. It's wonderful, delicious.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And so I'm
The
doing that
more,
often because it's so easy.
and that's the thing is I think a lot of times when you try to tell people, look, you need to eat from home, they start going, "Oh, I'm not a great cook," or "It's so much work." And it's
I'm not.
all about, again, working smarter, not harder. And there's so many kitchen tools these days. Oh my God, there are
Yeah,
so many ways to make things easy. Do you do any sort of smoothies at all?
I need to get back to it again. I do a drink in the morning, but it's like mostly almond milk and then a whole bunch of powders. So I wouldn't really call it a
Okay.
smoothie.
Mm,
It's got my protein powders in it. It's got my green powders in it because I do like 3 different types of green powders. Again,
yeah.
because I got lazy. I was doing fresh greens and I got away from that during the winter time. And now I need to
Yeah.
transition back into doing real greens again now that they're plentiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I have my smoothie here right now. I like a morning smoothie, especially because I usually drink it before I go work out, so it's pre-digested. I don't want to eat something big before I work out. I just use a scoop of whey, a scoop of collagen, and put some blueberries in there, some almond butter, and then not almond butter, I use walnuts actually, and then some supplement powders, AKG, and then I was putting a lot more powders, but now got all these drinks. I've got this big. I'm using this stuff called eye cell water. Have you heard of this supplement?
No.
So hydration is it's almost like an operating system upgrade when you increase the volume of the cells and you get them hydrated, the receptors all work better and everything. But they're realizing now that you can control the osmolarity of the cell through amino acids. So that it's got 5 grams of creatine, it's got some glycine, it's got some glutamine, it's got some leucine, it's got a couple of these proteins that, and you're just supposed to sip on it all day long. And it's great because I live in the desert. I live in Vegas, which is hot and dry right now. So this ISL water, I just sip on it all day long. And it's allowed me to basically consolidate 4 supplements into 1 supplement. It's really good. Seed Scientific Research and Performance, Dr. Bill Seeds, his whole faculty have done the research on this. And then one of the faculty members created a line of supplements called New BioAge. And they were originally sort of designed for people that use peptides. So this is really good for people that are on the GLP-1 agonist to maintain their hydration. But they have a really good supplement line. I also use their calcium alpha ketoglutarate, and they do it in a really good dose. And the only other dose I have found that is commensurate was on Amazon, and it was some anonymous brand, and I just don't buy it. I
Do
don't
not
buy cheap
age.
supplements.
Do not
Oh,
age
they
has
do? Oh,
yeah,
okay. Yeah, but it's
calcium.
not a powder, it's pills, right?
It's pills. Yeah.
It's yeah. I've used some of their stuff. I'm a fan of their stuff. I still don't. What do I use of theirs? I don't know if I'm using anything actively right now, but I would like to go into your supplement protocol, but I feel like that is a can of worm. I'm saying that is going to
Yeah, it
be
is. It really is.
yeah,
There's so much. I mean, needless
yeah.
to
Let
say,
me
I
ask
pretty
you
much
this:
do everything.
all the stuff listed on your website, are you actively taking that, or is that kind of more a snapshot of everything you have taken?
No, that's pretty much things that I'm actively taking. Yeah. I mean, there is a
Wow.
section where I say, um, took it one time, may take again. I mean, those are things that are completely separate. But everything I'm
Yeah.
listing they're the things that I'm doing like right now.
It's a pretty robust supplement protocol you have there. It's pretty complete. I would like to dive into it, but I think there's so many people talking about supplements these days, and that's quite a bit of a rabbit hole. Has there been any supplement that has had a profound effect for you?
Yeah, there is one that I noticed right away, which surprised the heck out of me because I'm a skeptic about everything. When I try something, I try it with the idea that I'm going to prove that it doesn't work. That's usually
Yeah,
my mindset. Um,
yeah,
but doing P90X, I've been doing that now since 2008. I started noticing somewhere around the age of maybe 55 that it was starting to take me more than an hour to get through an hour workout. And I just thought, I'm getting older, it's probably normal. I hated that answer, but it's what I assumed to be the case. Well, then I heard a
yeah.
podcast where they were talking about a supplement to increase your NAD levels. And it was a supplement called True Niagen. It was
Yeah.
nicotinamide riboside, or NR. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to order this because I'm sure it's bullshit, but I'm going to try it. And I tried it, and I was surprised because I didn't feel anything right away. Like in my day-to-day, just walking around, I felt nothing. But 2 days later, when I did my next P90X workout, I was shocked. I got through the hour workout in that hour, and I had so much energy left over. I did another one. And I'm like,
Oh,
gosh, I
wow.
haven't felt like this in years. And so it was a
Wow.
huge game changer for me. I didn't realize how low my NAD levels must have been, but it
Yeah.
was definitely the rate limiting factor of my energy. And so once I
Interesting.
began supplementing that, it was a total game changer. I was back to my young self all over again.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like the supplement that works the best is the one you're most efficient in, or that process you're most efficient in, right? So
Yeah.
for people who don't know, NAD is very important for cellular energy production. It's very important for DNA repair. I mean, it's everyone knows about NAD now. Have you heard of 1-MNA?
1-NMA. No.
So this is like version 3 of, I've talked about this quite a bit, of the NAD. Like in the beginning, it was, excuse me, these NAD massive infusions. And then we realized your body can't even absorb that much NAD at once. And it's probably too big to get into the cell. And not only that, but you can exacerbate senescent cells. And so then we got into the precursors, the NR, the NMN, and then now version 3. Actually talked about this in my last podcast with Dr. Urth. She's one that pioneered this whole movement, the 1-MNA. And instead what it does is it inhibits this NNMT, nicotinamide N-methyltransferase pathway that's basically stealing your NAD. So it preserves your NAD. And so you can take this and you can also, so 5-amino-1-MQ was doing that in the past. You'll see that on a lot of like
Apigenin.
peptide.
Apigenin also helps with that.
Well, apigenin's the other one. That is the other pathway.
It
Come to
inhibits
me.
the CD38, I think, which
CD38.
inhibits.
Yeah.
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 But that pathway is not as it's not deleterious. Like the other one you actually want to inhibit. And so you can take this 1-MNA to slow down, the NAD from being stolen from you. And then you can also do it with your precursors too. So that could be a nice addition if you've had a profound effect from NAD, that maybe audition that one in your stack. And
Yeah.
so,
Interesting.
yeah, I'll put a link to that in the show notes too. That's also offered by New BioH in their protocol. I've been using it and I like the science behind it, and the people that came up with this approach are some of the people I highly respect the most. Like people like Dr. Urth and Bill Seeds.
Deal.
That guy is,
Yeah.
he's a juggernaut he's like a savant with these molecular pathways, which is a whole thing into itself. I strive to continue to learn biochemistry, and it's an endeavor because there's so many pathways, but always something to look forward to. Let's talk
Yeah.
about your workout real quick, because we're getting to the end of this, and I would be remiss if I didn't speak about exercise, because to me, that's my favorite tool in the toolbox to really change the way you look, feel, and perform.
Yeah.
And it hits every pathway of aging in a positive way. And the more you exercise, the more you can hit those pathways.
So, I bought a Carol bike back in November, and
Oh, nice.
I love it. It kicks my butt. I know that I needed to do more HIIT workouts. I used to do HIIT. I used to HIIT before
Yeah.
I did marathon training. I used to run around with a 50-pound weight vest and do sprints. Um,
Well,
and I think all that ended up doing is just training my heart rate to go super high whenever I tried to work out.
yeah.
So it might have actually worked against me. But once I started marathon training, yeah, I was more into zone 2 and then just keeping everything steady. Um,
Yeah.
but I've actually found that I've got a whole nother gear there in zone 5 that I've really not explored enough. Or at least I've been
Yeah.
told that I haven't explored it,
Yeah.
because I'm a terribly slow runner. But anyway, I have the Carol bike that I do every other day. P90X for people that aren't familiar with P90X, because it's sort of an old school workout. Um,
Yeah. I love
it's
P90X.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah. I
I know
love
a
it.
lot of people that have tried it and like said, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I can't. I'm not doing that. That's too much." Because it is crazy extreme. But I always
Yeah.
tell people that if you stick with it through the first 2 weeks of all the soreness that you're gonna feel, the soreness goes away, and
Yeah.
then you're golden. You just keep building from there. But it really takes 2 weeks to get past
Yeah.
all the pain and torture of it all.
Yeah. I did it
But
for a
it's
few years and I loved it.
yeah,
I like P90 years ago, 2010, 11, 12, around that
yeah.
era.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I found it in 2008, and I think it was out even 2 years before that. But
Wow.
again, that was another one that I thought, "Yeah, this is BS. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it exactly the way they say it, and I'm certain it's not gonna make any difference." Wow, was I wrong. I was
Yeah.
so pleased with the way I started to look after 30 days and 60 days and 90 days. People noticed, and I never
Yeah.
felt more confident in my appearance ever. And
Oh,
I
there
owe it
you
all to
go.
that, because I was a gym guy before that. I was the geek that walked around with a clipboard, going to all the different machines, writing down, the weight that I did, the number of reps
Yeah.
that I did, making sure that I had some improvement the next week.
Hmm.
And I would even
Yeah.
graph this out so I could see my progress, or lack
Yeah.
thereof. But I
Yeah.
never saw any physical changes like I did doing P90X. But
Yeah.
so like I was starting to say, it's, every other day it's a different weight bearing type exercise. There might be like, oh gosh, chest and back one day, shoulders and arms another day, back and biceps another day. It's 14-day routine, so there's something different every day for 14 days. And in between those, they'll have cardio days. So you might do Kempo karate one day. You might do extreme yoga another day. You might do plyometrics another day. I mean, it's always something different. You're hitting every muscle group, and that's why people usually feel like absolute crap that first 2 weeks, because you're feeling muscles you never knew you had before.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah. That's how you
wonderful.
know it's working. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
It is a comprehensive program. I like it. And the fact that you actually do the off day stuff too is, I think, really rounds it out. Have you had your VO2 max tested?
I have. Haven't done it in a while, but the last time I had it tested was like 2 years ago. And then my Garmin, it pretty much tells me an assessment too, and they were both in agreement. I think that
Oh,
my
really?
VO2 max was like 42, I
Okay.
think it was.
Okay. Yeah. I've taken a pretty deep dive on VO2 Max. We opened up a clinic called Place AI, Prime Life Artificial Intelligence Solutions in Houston. Amazing team. I love this team. And we went really hard on metabolic conditioning because the studies on VO2 Max and survival is pretty impressive. So we got this metabolic expert. He's like one of the best in the world. And it has been just a journey down this rabbit hole with this guy. He is all about your measuring your lungs. How much are you using of your lungs? How many breaths do you do in each zone? He's given me a protocol. I've started really doing it. I mean, I was low 50s, which is not, it's still considered excellent.
That's
But I
fantastic.
saw, yeah, for a 50-year-old, not bad for someone who didn't do a lot of endurance and VO2 max stuff. I mean, I've always been like a gymnast, as kind of a power type person. And strength training, I love strength training. But I watched him. When we went to Houston, we were in the hotel, the gym in the hotel. They had a treadmill, and he's down there. He's like, I'm just going to test this Pinoy out real quick. He's 50 as well. I watched him put up a 70.4. That's like Tour de France type
Oh
of
my
guy. I mean,
gosh.
it's
Yeah, that's amazing.
world class. Yeah. So he's running all of our people. You can get tested by him. You can get a protocol. He has shirts that you wear. He can see exactly how you breathe during all the training sessions. It's really well thought out. I'm just so impressed with his protocols. And so I said, I'm doing this 100% because I want to start challenging. I want to get up to that 70, which is going to be a lot of work, but I'm excited to actually do this part of the exercise part of my protocol with a lot more sophistication. And I know that this Carol bike you mentioned is an interesting way to raise your VO2 max. They call it's like a rehit. Isn't that what the term they use?
Yep.
And so it's like a really compressed high intensity interval training, right?
Very. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I usually do the intense workout, which I think is like 2 20-second sprints, which doesn't seem like very long, but oh my gosh, when you're doing it, it's like, is this ever going to end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And compared to doing nothing, I mean, there's some people
Right.
that haven't gone into zone 5 in years, if you think about it,
Yeah.
and it doesn't take a
That's me.
ton.
I really need to work on my zone 5 big time.
Yeah. Well, I'd be curious to see, hopefully you'll post it on your website, what the Carol bike actually does for you in terms of, if you think the Garmin's giving you a good reading and whatever, but yeah.
Well, just for marathon training, I watched myself go up from 36 to 42, which, that was pretty good movement. And I know I've got lots of room to grow still. So
yeah,
I'm curious to see how that goes. But I'd love to hear more about, what you're doing and, whatever you can share. I'd love to learn from it.
Yeah. I mean, we have it down. Like when it comes to metabolic conditioning, that's it. With our guy and we bought the Pinoe. We bought like every testing device out there. We're kind of like a think tank. Our CEO is awesome. And this guy, Michael Blazer, he will just look at everything and we'll just put everything on the table. And then Mike found this metabolic guy from my friend Jesse Carroll. And as soon as Michael, our CEO, chatted with him one time, he's like, is he interested in being part of the team? And so we brought him in. And so we have really cracked the code on this VO2 maxing. If you do this guy's protocol, guaranteed it will increase your VO2 max. And he walks the walk. And so I'm sold. And if you look at the science on VO2 max, I mean, look, on average, you lose about 10% every decade. And so you can kind of back into where you're going to be disabled because around, I think I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 17 is when, if your VO2 max is around there, then that's basically what it requires for you to get up, get dressed, go to the grocery store, buy groceries, carry them back home, and do the most basic fundamental things in life. And so you can say, well, I'm this age and I'm this VO2 max, and I'm going to start losing 10% a decade. You can start to see where you're going to get into a danger zone. And I have no intention of being an older person with no energy. Like that would be the greatest, that would be a huge disaster. Like I have so many things I want to do in life and energy is the currency. And so I don't want to be frail and I love strength training. I don't have to put any more wood on that fire that's burning, but I always am like, I don't like cardio. And now I'm doing it with a renewed passion. So really cool stuff. I'll keep you informed and I'll send you, if you're ever interested in getting tested by him or anything, I can connect you guys and I'll put links to him as well in our metabolic accelerator package and all that stuff. If anyone wants to say, hey, I want this. It was important for me to create something that was, I've always wanted a clinic, but at the same time, I've been an online guy. And so now starting to put these pieces in place where people can go and get real results, not just some paint by numbers sort of thing where it's like, oh, just do your 4x4 and do your age minus this heart rate and you'll be in zone 2. It's like, no, I want precision. I want to know that every pedal stroke that I do on that bike is exactly where I need to be in the heart rate.
Yeah.
That's my,
my lungs are something I've had some major concern about because when I was in college, I used to work in the dorms. We used to work maintenance and security, but doing maintenance, we used to strip the wax off of floors with raw ammonia. We would just pour like gallons and gallons of ammonia on the floor. And we would be in there inhaling that while we're working a buffer machine and stripping all the wax off. I did this for like full summers, multiple years through college. So I know I didn't do my lungs any favors from that. Probably did a lot of damage. And I think that's partially why I do have so much trouble with the running. So got a lot of room to grow.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm
I mean, look,
fascinated.
you're disciplined. I mean, I kind of feel like if someone just shows you something and they show you that it works, you'll be like, all right, I'm doing it. You're
Yeah,
that kind of guy. I mean, you came to Club
absolutely.
Exosome and you probably saw some videos, saw Sandra talking about it and said, you got on a freaking airplane and you flew out to come to
Yeah.
this event. And so I immediately was like, this is my kind of guy. He's exactly like reminds me of me. And then I saw the way you looked and then the shape you were. I thought, Jesus, this is what I want to be like when I'm 62. I feel like we're cut from the same cloth. So I have a lot of respect for your approach to this. And I, we're getting to the end of this and I still feel like I have questions about, your sleep and all that. But we all know from earlier that you clearly safeguard and keep your sleep sacred. Are there anything, like, let's say someone who's watching this and says, wow, I really like what these guys are talking about, and I wanted to start making some positive changes and doing some of these things that Steve and Dave are talking about. What would be your recommendation for maybe somebody who's a little bit earlier in their journey and they're just starting out with this stuff?
Well, talking about sleep, I was really amazed at what a big difference getting blackout curtains made to my sleep scores and wearing a sleep mask. I just
Yeah.
didn't think those were even going to be an issue. But once I addressed those, oh, my sleep scores just shot right up. So
Yeah.
don't underestimate the amount of junk light you might have coming in through your windows, whether it might be from a
Yep.
street lamp or even a full moon or just all the electronics that you've got in your house with the little LEDs that are burning. Um, those things seem to matter. I never thought
Yeah.
it was real, but it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a
Yeah.
big
And
one.
yeah, sleep is so paramountly important. It's unbelievable. I'll tell you what's been working for me. The moment I get into bed, I empty my mind. No thinking about the to-do list, no thinking about the day, no tasks, no nothing. If I'm going to think about anything, I'm going to think about how I feel. How does it feel? I try to put myself into my senses. I get myself out of my head. And I have found that I will go to sleep fast. And I also get better sleep in the night because if you go to sleep with your brain chewing on something, you will chew on it all night
All
long.
night
You
long.
know,
Yeah.
all night. That's exactly how you like before you go to bed, you say, gosh, I have to wake up at this time tomorrow. I have to. And somehow you wake up 5 minutes before the alarm because you put that in your brain and your brain is tick tock, tick tock, tick all night waiting for that thing when it knows. And I have
Yeah.
found that once you have the dark and you have good architecture and you're going to sleep at the right times and all, just empty your brain. Do not go to bed with anything. And then I just feel like the brain just goes, ugh, and it lets you have sleep. At least that's working for me now. Have you noticed anything like that?
I do something similar. As I go to bed, I start reviewing all of my blessings. And
There you
there's so
go.
many things that we just take for granted that are absolute blessings. Like when I went to Africa and I watched how people live in Africa, they don't have running water, they don't have sewage systems. You know, they so many kids die before the age of 5 every day from lack of hygiene and sanitation there.
Yeah.
It's another reason why I'm involved with Team World Vision, because we raise money to build wells in Africa for that. But I'm just, the people there, they wake up every morning and they sing. They sing for their life because they're so grateful that they woke up to see another sunrise. Whereas our day is totally ruined if they short us a hot sauce going through the drive-through. So I count my blessings like just for having running water, for having a sewage system that I can flush a toilet and have things go away,
Yeah.
simple things like that. But I mean, obviously there's even bigger things, just to be able to have a roof over my head, a car that doesn't break down on me, good friends, family, people I care about. There's just so many things that you can think about to be grateful for. And I
Yeah.
think about all those as I drift off to sleep, and it's just such a great, peaceful sleep.
That's fantastic. That's beautiful. I really think that has to have a massive impact on your whole holistic health.
Yeah.
I've been to China and Russia like in the 90s. I've been there multiple times, these countries. And in China, first time I went to China, I came back and I said, I'm rich. When I turn the hot water faucet on, I don't worry if hot water is coming out. I'm rich. There's toilet paper in every bathroom you go to in America. Everyone. In Russia, you literally had to, at one point, bring your own toilet paper. I think that the gratitude portion cannot be underestimated enough. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I think that's a really nice takeaway. I think that's a nice thing to end on, and to remind people the power of gratitude, and really appreciate, especially in this I want environment, that there's nothing wrong with wanting stuff, but at the same time, I think of having some gratitude and some blessing for what you have in life is it's just a beautiful thing in itself. It only can promote good thoughts.
Totally agree.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one to leave us. I really appreciate that. Awesome. Well, I think we didn't get to stretching. I know you do some stretching in the morning. To me, stretching is so
many
vital.
things we could cover. Maybe we'll do another one of these sometime.
Absolutely. You have a automatic, anytime you want, recurring guest spot on the show. We'll be staying in contact, and I want to check in and see what you're up to and see what's come down the pipe. And I'll be checking out your website. If people want to follow you and they want to get to know you, they want to reach out to you, what should they do?
My website is davepascoe.net, and I'm on Instagram as dave.pascoe. Those are the two biggest places you can find me.
Perfect. And I will include links to everything we talked about. We had a good one. And what was the name of the planting things? The boxes?
Earth boxes.
Earth boxes. Yeah. I'll put links to everything in the show notes. Stephen with a PH, McCain.com/Pascoe. That's PASCOE. I appreciate you, Dave, for coming on. It's been a pleasure meeting you. I look forward to seeing your growth in this industry. I'm sure you're going to continue to be a bigger and bigger name in it. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Feel free to reach out to me any single time. And for all of you that have been listening, hope you enjoyed it, and check out the show notes. And we will see you on the next episode of the Stephen McCain podcast. Stay healthy, everyone. Cheers.